Hello everyone, this is Dr. A classes for BTech students. Today we'll discover stratigraphy, the science of studying rock layers to decode the history of our planet. Stratigraphy helps us understand how sedimentary rocks form over time. In engineering geology, studying stratigraphy is crucial because rock layers reveal past environments, material properties, and ground stability, which guide safe and effective construction. Learning objectives of the course is defining stratigraphy and explaining its role in studying Earth's history, understanding the principle of superposition and the time sequence of sedimentary layers, interpreting rock layers to reconstruct past environments and geological events, recognizing the importance of stratigraphy in engineering geology and construction planning, relating stratigraphy to the rock cycle and Earth's dynamic processes. What is stratigraphy? Stratigraphy is essentially the study of rock layers and their sequence. By examining these layers, we can reconstruct the story of our planet, understanding how landscapes, climates, and life forms have changed over millions of years. The scope of stratigraphy goes beyond academic interest. It helps determine the relative age of rocks, understand how sedimentary layers form, shift, and erode over time, support engineering projects as knowledge of strata informs foundation stability and construction safety, guide exploration for resources such as groundwater, minerals, and fossil fuels. In short, stratigraphy connects the past, present, and practical application of geology, making it cornerstone of earth science. Reading Earth's layered diary. When we study sedimentary rocks, we are reading Earth's diary written in stone. By principle of superposition, lower layers are older and upper layers are younger. Like pages in a history book, each recording a new event. Deeper layers reveal ancient environments and fossils, while upper layers reflect more recent times. Stratigraphy interprets these succession to reconstruct past climate, sea levels, mountain building, and the evolution of life. Every outcrop is a library of Earth's history, and stratigraphers are the readers who decode its story. Fossils and past environments. Fossils are the preserved remains, traces, or imprints of ancient plants and animals that once lived on Earth. They are usually found within layers of rock called strata, which act like pages in a history book. Each layer tells a story about the environment at the time it was found, whether it was a river, ocean, desert, or forest. By combining fossils with the stratigraphic context, scientists can reconstruct Earth's changing environments, track the evolution of life, and understand climatic shifts through geological times. Stratigraphy, the science of studying these rock layers, help us piece together the history of our planet, reconstruct the ancient landscapes, and understand how environments have changed over millions of years. Sedimentary layers. Sedimentary layers act as Earth's natural archive, recording the passage of time. Each layer is formed from sediments like sand, silt, and clay that settle in rivers, lakes, ocean, or desert. The oldest layers are typically at the bottom, with younger layers stacking above them, creating a chronological record known as the time sequence in strata. By examining these layers, geologists can interpret past environments, track changes in the landscape, and understand how life and climate evolved through geological history. In essence, sedimentary strata allow us to read Earth's history layer by layer. Strata as historical records. Strata are like pages in Earth's history book, preserving information about past environments. Each layer records conditions that exist when it was deposited rivers, oceans, desert, forest, or other landscapes. Fossils within these layers give us a snapshot of the organisms that lived at that time. By studying both the strata and their fossil content, geologists can reconstruct ancient ecosystems, understand shifts in climate, and trace the evolution of life through geological time. In this way, rock layers serve as a valuable historical record of our planet's dynamic past. Principles of stratigraphy. Stratigraphy is the science of studying rock layers or strata which forms as sediments accumulate over time. Each layer holds important clues about the sequence of events in the Earth's history. The principles of stratigraphy provide a framework to interpret these layers. Principle of original horizontality. Sediments are initially deposited in horizontal layers. Principle of superposition. In an undisturbed sequence, older layers lie beneath younger ones. Principle of lateral continuity. Layers extend laterally until they thin out or encounter a barrier. Principle of faunal succession. Fossils of organisms succeed one another in a predictable order, allowing layers to be dated and correlated. While these principles are straightforward in theory, applying them to real world rocks and fossils requires careful observation and interpretation. Together, they form the foundation for reconstructing Earth's dynamic past. Principle of original horizontality. The first fundamental concept in stratigraphy is the principle of horizontality. It simply means that when sediments like sand, silt, or clay are deposited in water or air, they naturally settle in flat horizontal layers due to gravity. So, if we now find rock layers that are tilted, folded, or vertical, we can conclude that some geological forces like tectonic movement or folding acted after the sediments were deposited. This principle allows geologists and engineers to distinguish between original layering and later deformation, which is essential for interpreting the structural stability of rock masses. Principle of superposition. The principle of superposition is one of the simplest yet most powerful ideas in geology. It states that in any sequence of undisturbed sedimentary rocks, the oldest layers are at the bottom and the layers become progressively younger towards the top. Think of it like a stack of newspaper. The oldest one is always at the bottom of the pile. This principle allows geologists to determine the relative age of rock layers and reconstruct the chronological sequence of geological events even without knowing their exact numerical ages. Principle of lateral continuity. The principle of lateral continuity explains how sedimentary layers spread out when they are first deposited. A layer of sand or limestone in a basin will continue laterally, sometimes for kilometers, until it either thins out, changes into a different material, or meets a barrier like coastline or fault. Even if erosion later cuts through a valley or river channel, we can often correlate the same layer on both sides, knowing it was once continuous. This principle is crucial in geological mapping and exploration, especially for correlating rock layers between boreholes or distant outcrops during site investigations. Principle of faunal succession. The principle of faunal succession is based on fossils, nature's own timeline. William Smith, an English surveyor and geologist, observed that layers of rock contains fossils in a consistent, recognizable order. Certain species appear, thrive, and disappear through time, and this sequence is never repeated. So, if we find the same fossil species in rocks from different places, we know they are of roughly the same geological age. This principle becomes the foundation of biostratigraphy, allowing scientists to correlate rock layers globally and understand the chronological order of life's evolution on Earth. Stratigraphic units. When we look at Earth's surface, we see that rock layers aren't random, they follow certain patterns. To make sense of them, geologists classify them into stratigraphic units. These units help us understand how rock in one region relate to rock in another. Lithostratigraphic units are identified by the type of rock, say a limestone or sandstone layer. Biostratigraphic units rely on fossils that lived during particular time interval, while chronostratigraphic units are tied directly to the time when these rocks were formed. Together, these units create a framework that lets us interpret and correlate the Earth's layered history. Lithostratigraphy. Lithostratigraphy is the most fundamental branch of stratigraphy. It simply means studying rock layers based on what they are made of. We define a formation as a body of rock that can be mapped and recognized by its composition or appearance. For instance, a sandstone formation may lie over a shale formation. These formations can be divided into smaller parts called members or combined into larger groups. For engineers, this knowledge is vital. It helps identify the type of materials at a construction site and anticipate how those materials will behave beneath the surface. Biostratigraphy. Biostratigraphy adds life to the rocks, literally. It relies on fossils preserved within sedimentary layers. Because certain species appeared and disappeared through time, their fossils act as natural time markers. For example, if the same fossil species is found in two distinct rock sections, we can say they were formed around the same time. This method has revolutionized petroleum exploration and paleoclimate research, helping geologists match rock sequences even across continents. Chronostratigraphy. Chronostratigraphy focuses on time. The ultimate question in geology: when did this happen? It tells us not just the order of layers but also their absolute ages using radiometric dating methods. By combining radiometric results with fossil evidence, geologists have built the geological timescale, a global calendar of Earth's 4.6 billion years history. This approach allows us to place rock formations, fossils, and major events like mass extinction or mountain building into a precise temporal framework. Stratigraphy and the rock cycle. Stratigraphy doesn't exist in isolation. It's part of the rock cycle, the grand recycling system of our planet. Sedimentary layers record erosion from mountains, transport by rivers, and deposition in seas. Over time, these layers may be uplifted, folded into mountain ranges, or even melted into magma. When we study these strata, we are seeing snapshots of these continuous transformation, proof that Earth is not static but always evolving. This connection between rock layers and dynamic processes is what makes geology such a powerful storytelling science. Importance of stratigraphy in engineering. Stratigraphy isn't only about history, it's an applied science of engineers. Before any major construction, dam, bridges, tunnels, or buildings, engineers must know what lies beneath the surface. Stratigraphic analysis reveals the order and type of rock layers, helping predict weak zones, groundwater levels, or unstable formations. For example, a thin clay layer beneath a strong sandstone could compromise foundation stability. Thus, stratigraphy provides engineers with the geological insights needed for safe and efficient design. Stratigraphy, reading Earth's story. To conclude, stratigraphy is more than just studying layers. It is learning to read Earth's autobiography. We have seen how each layer, fossils, and mineral grains tells a part of this story. The principles we apply, superposition, faunal succession, and others, allow us to construct geological time and environmental changes. For engineers, this knowledge translates into practical wisdom about the ground we build on and the material we use. Through stratigraphy, connect deep time to modern engineering, building safely and sustainably on the lessons written in stone. Self-assessment questions. At the end of the presentation, these are self-assessment questions. Go through each question carefully, answer these questions based on understanding of the topic, and review any concept you are unsure about. The questions are: what is stratigraphy and why is it important in earth science? Define the term stratum and explain how strata record geological history. Explain the fundamental principles of stratigraphy, highlighting their significance and providing suitable examples. Differentiate between lithostratigraphic, biostratigraphy, and chronostratigraphy. How do fossils assist in correlating rock layers from different regions? What is meant by relative dating in stratigraphy? Explain how understanding stratigraphy can improve foundation design and slope stability analysis in engineering projects. Thank you for joining this lesson on engineering geology today. Hope you found this presentation informative. So don't forget to like and subscribe the channel Dr. A Classes for more engaging lessons on core subjects of civil engineering. Thanks.